This will be Simple Shapes 2 exercise, and let's see if we can just go through it pretty quick. I have my Vectorworks window set up here, and I have my PDF next to that. And the first thing that we're going to want to do again is to change our name. So I'll zoom in here a little bit. I'll double click on this. I'll sweep across that text, and I'll enter my name. And then again, it's not hitting enter, it's coming back and hitting your pointer. I will then come over in Simple Shapes. I think we're working on Simple Shapes 2. Again, I can just sweep across that and say 2 and click on my pointer, and that changes that text. Great. So now let's look at our first oval. Now let's look at our oval tool for just a minute. I'll zoom in here. This is our oval tool right next to the circle. If you hover over that tool, it will show you, right? And if I click on the oval tool, you'll see that I have several different ways in which I can draw this oval, right? I can do it constrained in a box, and let's look and see what that looks like. It's drawing a rectangle, and the oval lives inside of that rectangle. You can see the diagonal line that describes that box, and that's one way to draw an oval. I'm going to delete that. There are other tools here. This tool is length and width. I can come how tall it is, I click, and then I define how wide it is. And that may be a useful tool. There is a third mode, which is using the center point mode, right? So from here, I'm going to define the center of my oval by its vertical component, by how wide it is. And I may find that that is the most useful mode for drawing the rectangle that I have here, or the oval that I have here. I see that my center is at -2 on the x-axis and +2 on the y-axis, and that's the center. And if I look at this, it looks like that it's between this mark and it's between this mark. And if I had it in paper, I'd have to measure it. But I think that that's going to be 1 3/4 inches across. I look at this top, and it also looks like it's going to be 1 1/4, no, I'm sorry, it's 3/4 of an inch across and 1 1/4 inches tall. So let's start with our oval tool. We're in our height versus width, and now I want to find the center. So I've locked in that point, I've locked in that point, and I get my smart guidelines just by hovering over any point. Let's do a height, and let's come down until our measurement says 1 1/4 inch, and you can see that length component there. From here, let's do a width, and I think we said it's 3/4 of an inch. That's half. There's 3/4 of an inch, and that looks like our oval in our drawing. So if I click there, it makes that shape. Next, let's go and look at our rectangle that's next to in this quadrant, and we'll use our rectangle tool, right? And again, we have several modes that we can define a rectangle by. For this, I'll just use corner by corner mode. It looks like we are 1 1/2 inches on the x-axis by 3 1/2 inches on the y-axis to get to this corner, and we're at 2 on the x-axis and 1/2 inch here. So let's go over to our drawing, and I'll zoom in just a little bit, and I can hover over that point to oh, I have to click. Do I have to click? No. Escape to stop that tool. Let's hover over this point, and I can see it locked in, and let's hover over this point, and it'll lock in. I think it locked in there and there and there. There it is, finally. So now I'm going to go from here, and I want to go down till it's at 2 and minus a half. There's that point, and that point, and that's locked in, and there's that rectangle. Let's see about our next one. Next, it looks like we're doing a square from minus 1.5 to minus 3.5, and from minus 1 to minus 3. Let's go over to our drawing over here, and we're at minus 1.5. We're going to again use our rectangle tool, minus 1.5 and minus 1. There, there, and let's see if we get a line here. There it is, right? And now I just want to draw a square that's going to go down to minus 3.5, and I can see my delta x and delta y are both at 2, so I could just go ahead and click, and there's my square. Now I also need this circle, and this circle, right, looks like it's going to have a radius of 1/2 inch, and it is at the midpoint of this square at minus 2. So if I click the circle tool, you'll see that I get the top center of this box. Vectorworks will identify the center of each one of the edges of a square or a rectangle. So I'm just going to click there and then come across 1/2 inch. Now, the interesting thing about this is now we can send these objects to the front or the back. I can click on the circle, right click on the circle, and I have this set of tools that are here, and the one specifically is the send command. I could say send to the back, which puts the circle behind the square, or I can click on it and send it to the front, which again puts it in front, just like what we had drawn. Okay, so let's go and look at our last shape that's over here, and this is going to be an oval and a rectangle. Looks like my rectangle is at 3/4 and minus 2, and then it goes down to here, and we go over to 3 1/4, right? So let's zoom in a little bit, and I'll select my rectangle tool, and I want to be at 3/4, which is here. I don't think I'm going to get a smart cursor setting, so let's see how we're going to do this. Minus 2, I think it's going to draw just fine because our smart cursor settings are on, and we want to pull that across. I might need to zoom out and zoom in a little bit, and we want to go to 3 1/4. So I'm at 2.5. I'm not quite down here yet. There we go. And now at 3 1/4. There, I can see my smart cursor line at 2.5 by 1.5. Now, there is another way that we can change this too. We can set these in our object info palette. We had defined the origin, which is this black dot of this rectangle, right? And then we had given it a width and a height. And you can actually enter that information here to change it. So if you were off by a little bit, you can go in and change it to 2 1/2 inch by 1 1/2 inch to come up with the exact size. Now, next we're going to want to do our oval that sits on top of it. And for this one, I may want to use my rectangle box mode, right? Because I want that oval to be exactly as wide as this rectangle and 1 inch tall. So I'm just going to use my box mode. I'll just select the box mode, and then I can pick this point and then hover over that corner, and you see how I get that construction line? And then I come up and I click there, and there's my oval.